Alright, this is a video showing you how far I've got along on the redoing the whole leg structure here, or whatever you want to call it. Those are the new legs that I made, or that's one of them. If you remember right, the old legs just went straight up and down. They were just this color and were just straight up and down, really very unattractive for the stereo console. So what I've done now is, if you remember right, I glued two pieces together, then I cut them, sanded, whatever sides it would be seen, and then right here you can see it's just a little bit higher than this, but I want it flat, so I'll be sanding that. And the same over here, it was actually a little down. The leg was actually a little lower because all these holes were pre-drilled already, so I didn't have any control, or not much control, over how high or low each one. It would have been harder to figure that out than to just, what I did was I glued a little shim up on top that I cut out, and then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and sand that down, and then I got to sand this down. Pretty much the same for all of them. And what I did was, if you remember right, I had drilled holes in here and put some dowels in there, wood dowels. So what I did was, I didn't really, I got to start using a stand to hold the camera. That way I could show you as I do this stuff. But I matched up the holes. I told you how I did that. And then what I did is I put glue around the edge of each hole in this piece of wood, the leg, and then I just used actually used a real thin knife blade that I had, but you could use anything, and just kind of like get it down all the way into the hole, onto the bottom, and make sure that the sides are covered real good, and kind of push along the sides so that the glue will have good contact with it, the Elmer's glue. Or wood glue, whatever, it's basically about the same thing, I guess. But make sure you don't fill up the bottom of the hole too much, because when you go to hammer the dowel rod in, if there's too much glue in the bottom, you should be able to see the bottom through the glue, But if there's too much glue, then what'll happen is your dowel won't go all the way in. Potentially it could, because the glue has nowhere to go, it'll act as the same as if it was a piece of wood stuck in there. And of course the dowel rods are fluted, so hopefully any of the glue that might get trapped could potentially come out there. But I would just make sure you don't overfill the hole. You shouldn't have it puddling in the bottom, and make sure before you glue it all up and hammer it in, match up. Once you get have the dowels either in this or in this, whichever one you want to put it in first. For me, I put them in here because it was tighter in here. These are new holes. And I noticed when I took the old one apart, I could actually just pull it apart with my hands. Fortunately, they didn't really glue it, which is amazing that it didn't come apart on its own. Because the stereo, the console weighs, it's not real heavy, but it seemed to me like it would have weighed enough to kind of pull it apart. But I guess because they were sitting straight up and down, it didn't really have that problem. If this joint here was loose, with the way the legs go out, it would probably pop open like that, kind of leave a gap here if it wasn't all glued up really well. But anyway, so the dowels were tight in here, so I put them in here first, and then I just filled that up with glue. They were kind of loose. Actually, one was really loose, so I'm hoping that there's enough glue in there to hold it together. And I put a little glue on each face, that touch this piece and this piece that touch each other. Just put a little glue there. And now I'm going to allow it a week to dry. I don't know what the time is. And I had it setting up, each set of legs I put on, I let it sit, sitting up with the weight of this, pushing down on here. I didn't really clamp it or anything, just so it would dry in place. So anyway, I've got all four of them. Then what I'll do is the next step will be to to dye this or stain this the same color as this wood. And I'm not sure why, but this wood, and I may go ahead and sand this. I really don't know, but since it's underneath, maybe not. But this wood is darker than the wood, as you can see, on the stereo console, and I'm not sure. You know, it looks like it came from the manufacturer that way. Seems like this is a lot darker than that, so I may try to. I don't know if I want to go ahead and sand all this and try to lighten it up or just go with it. You know, and probably mostly nobody will notice, but so I may try to match it. I may do a little testing on the back part of it, you know, on the other side of it or something. Just sand it a little bit, see how hard it is to get off. If it comes off really easy, then I may go ahead and see if I can match it really close to the stereo console. But anyway, I'm letting all this dry for a week. You can see on two of them I had to put some extra shims, so it was a little higher than this, and that way I can sand it down smooth. My next step will be, I've got a metal L-shaped, boy, I can't think of what it's called now. But anyway, an L-shaped piece of metal, real long, that goes down the whole length of this. And what that'll do is that'll sit all the way up into here, and I'll be able to, as I screw it into the stereo, you know, as I screw there's a bolt that goes up through here, comes out through here, and goes up into the stereo. All that, the metal and everything will be clamped together. And if you remember, I had showed you the metal before. That metal will carry all the weight and transfer it to the legs. And then hopefully there will be a small amount, you know, there'll be just enough, you know, of the metal to just, you know, make sure that the stereo console won't, you know, won't bend in the middle from the weight. So it'll take, it'll kind of stiffen up. It'll just set all the weight very evenly on these legs, and won't allow the legs or the stereo to actually, you know, start bending under the weight. The only thing I have to worry about is this joint right here, and I may go ahead and put something behind it. I'm not sure, just to you know, make sure that it doesn't separate, but I'm not real sure about that. Anyway, that's how far I am. I'm just letting it all sit for about a week. What I'll do is the other pieces of wood that I have, the scrap, I'll start testing to see. I think I've got some stain this color, but I'll go ahead and probably sand this today, you know, on the other side of it, just to, you know, sand it a little bit to see how far the stain is on it. And if I can get it to come out real easy, then I will go ahead and you know, maybe I'll go ahead and stain it all, try staining it all one color. But I'm not sure what kind of wood this is. I don't really know if this is oak. It almost has a grain like oak, so I'm thinking that it is. But if it's not oak, or if it's not the same kind of oak as this, trying to stain them the same color might be a problem. So I may just go with it the way it is, and you know, the darker stain. And that may be why they did that right there. It came out a different color because maybe it's a slightly different wood. I don't think that's oak, but this almost looks like oak. So, all right. Anyway, that's how far I've gotten so far, and you can see how the rocket fin look. You know, I think that's going to look pretty good when it's all up under there. Much better than the old legs, and it'll look much more 50s, 60-ish stereo console. All right.